The Vision Pro is a phenomenal device, but there's a lot of little things that are frustrating to use about it. And so with WWDC coming up, I thought it would be a fun exercise to make a wish list of what I hope to see in visionOS 2.0. The first is having more spatial apps. One thing that really bothers me about the current state of visionOS is that so many of the experiences are simply flat that exist within 3D space. And that's cool and novel, but there's so much opportunity to make apps more 3D and take advantage of what makes the headset so cool. So for example, these are the compatible apps, and a lot of the standard default apps from iOS and iPadOS are brought over here as stopgaps, assuming that Apple is just taking more time to translate these into fully spatial experiences. An example of that is the Maps app. This is particularly funny because this is something that you would expect to be 3D. I mean, look at the maps, it's really cool. And yet it is just a flat experience in visionOS. Here's an example of what this could look like if it was more fully spatial. And this is an app that you can get on visionOS now, but I would imagine that Apple is working on their own version of this to make the buildings come to life in this fully 3D way. The second is better window management. And there's several problems within this that I will address and propose various solutions towards. The first is that there's no snapping in the shared space. And the shared space is an environment within which screens and volumes can coexist. And the challenge is when you are arranging 3D models, like in this video here, where I am moving this cool banana dude from Beautiful Things, I place it through the floor and there's no obvious way to get it to just stick to the ground as I really want it to. The weird and funny thing is that plane detection and snapping actually does exist. It just is not available in the shared space. You have to go into a full immersive space to get the benefits of plane detection. That's an awkward limitation, and I really hope Apple fixes this in visionOS 2.0. The next problem is that apps are saved in other rooms, and this can be a benefit that allows me to set up apps in different rooms in my apartment. But the challenge is when I would say like, hey Siri, open Safari, and nothing happens, it's just an awkward experience where I'm like, oh yeah, the app is actually already open, but it's all the way over there in another room. And then there's this awkward experience of seeing the back side of the app in like this ghost form where I have to awkwardly look at the little bottom bar and then pinch it, or if I want to close it. Now granted, I can reset my view, but this is just an overall awkward experience. And a related app is that complex app arrangements are too finicky. So the example here, I have this Twitter app open, I have calendar or music and various other things. This is really cool because it's demonstrating the opportunity for spatial computing, what makes the Vision Pro so amazing. Yet every time I set this up, often the apps will adjust a little bit and I have to rearrange everything. Or if I lose power or restart the Vision Pro, everything gets destroyed. So the solution to this is to have saved workspaces, where the example that I'm using here is from Premiere Pro, where there's a drop down and there's various different options that allow me to select workspaces that are saved layouts of different screens. In this case, it's 2D, but you can imagine something similar for the Vision Pro in 3D. Taking this to the next level, I think that something that would be really amazing is having suggested workspaces that would be contextually aware of whatever it is that you're looking at, whether it's, for example, the kitchen. It could bring up a crouton app, or if I'm back in my bedroom at my workstation, and it could bring up that saved workspace that I showed earlier. Siri already does this for suggesting phone calls or suggesting, maybe you want to listen to your AirPods instead of your headphones. So just translating that into the Vision Pro makes a lot of sense. Next is better text editing. I don't have too big of a problem with the keyboard itself as others have, but it's editing the text whenever I type something and maybe I make an error and I want to go back and change a word or change a letter. Getting that cursor to be in the spot that I want to then make the edit is really frustrating. I really hope Apple addresses this, because anytime text is required of me to enter, I just want to take that set off, and that's bad. The next is developer camera access. And this is an interesting one because Apple has dedicated an entire button for creating and capturing spatial photos and videos, one of 2 buttons on the whole thing. And yet developers do not have direct and immediate access to this as I believe they should. And I want to read a part of a tweet from 6live, where he says, "One of my strong opinions is that mixed reality will not take off until we give devs access to the cameras. Privacy will lose in the long run. Camera access matters much more in MR than VR. Or you have very limited understanding of your environment." So examples he gives, like imagine picking up your PS5 controller and automatically turning it on, turning a Nerf gun into a magical laser, all impossible now due to platform policies. And before people say, well, Apple can do that with an API, what you're describing is gatekeeping. We could do this right now. Finally, for those still on the fence for privacy reasons, your phone has a GPS locator and a little camera on it, basically a spy device, and they still have third-party devs access, otherwise so many innovative ideas couldn't exist. I really agree with this. If you think about like Snapchat, who's been innovating on AR for so long, you can't really make a Snapchat application on visionOS today with the current limitations. And so for the Vision Pro to really fulfill the vision for spatial computing, it seems to me, and 6, that having full access to the cameras is necessary. Next up, I wish the Vision Pro was more shareable with friends and family and demoable. So of course there's the ability to have a guest user use this and then they go through this eye calibration process, and that in and of itself makes sense because you need to calibrate in order for the Vision Pro to work properly with your eyes and the arrangement of where your eyes are. But overall, the experience of giving someone else access to your Vision Pro is very cumbersome compared to giving someone your Rift or Vive. One particular example I'm frustrated by is demoing Apple TV Plus or Disney Plus. And when I'm screen mirroring to my phone, which is necessary to guide people through the experience, for privacy reasons, it appears as a black screen to the person in the headset. So I turn off screen mirroring to allow them to see the content, but now I can't see what they're seeing and it just becomes kind of a nightmare to demo. So I hope that there's some way to overcome that. The next is a bunch of spatial persona improvements. And I'm going to go through a couple here, starting with the ability to record spacetimes or FaceTimes with audio. This is an odd limitation, again, due to privacy concerns, but I think that there's a number of different ways that Apple could address this by having recording indicators when you are recording or making it opt-in. Like Zoom has addressed this, so it seems obvious to me that you would be able to do this in a way that still respects user privacy. And then this would open up many different use cases for spacetimes, like being able to record podcasts and just other video opportunities to post on social media. The next is having an API for spatial personas. And right now, the only way to access spatial personas is through a FaceTime call. And if I wanted to directly integrate this into an app that I'm working on, there's really no way to do that. So I hope that Apple works on this for visionOS 2.0. I would also love the ability to display my status for having a FaceTime call with other friends that have the Vision Pro. And if you remember iChat back in the day when we could set our status to available or away or something else that's custom, this would make the FaceTime experience much more convenient and obvious. Lastly is persona messages. So we can record messages with Animoji and Memoji and send that to our friends. And so it seems like an obvious next evolution for spatial personas is to be able to actually record messages asynchronously and then send them to our friends. And what would be really mind-blowing about this is you could actually display those messages fully volumetrically in 3D compared to the Animoji on the phone, which is 2D, and it could appear like a message from your friend in a miniature form floating in front of you. That would be freaking amazing. That's all that I've come up with. I'd love to hear your thoughts on what you want to see in visionOS 2.0. The last note is if you want to try the spatial persona experience, what I'm calling Spacetimes, go to spacetime.directory. It's a community-based directory where you can find meetups, events, classes for having spatial persona conversations. We just had a watch party for the latest Apple iPad event, and that was a ton of fun. So I hope to see you there. Thank you so much for watching. It's been fun to explore this with you. And if you enjoy this, please like, subscribe, and follow for more content, and hopefully I'll see you in Spacetime.